Hi guys, Peter McKenzie here with Rincon Property Management. We're here to talk about our on-site consultation. So we're here at a property that we're getting ready to rent out. Why don't you come inside and we will go over this. So the purpose of the on-site consultation is to, one, meet you, in person, two, take a look at the property, take a tour of the property, give our recommendations on what it takes to get the property rent ready, which is important for you so you know what needs to be done. And then three, to answer any questions you have related to our process, working with us, rental properties in general, whatever you need, whatever questions you need answered, we're here to do at the on-site consultation. So bear with us, this is gonna be a little bit long of a video, but we wanna make sure that we thoroughly show you exactly what we do when we go through an on-site consultation. So for starters, we'll introduce ourselves, meet each other, which obviously is not happening in real life here. But then from there, we go to the tour of the house. And this is your opportunity to show us features about the house that you think might be desirable to a tenant, any known maintenance issues that you may or may not have addressed, and anything in general related to the property that you want to get, that you want to make sure is conveyed to us. This could be unique things about your house. A lot of the houses in our areas are really old, and some of them have some really weird quirks that you just need to know about in order to operate stuff. And this is one of those times when you are able to convey that information. We are generally taking notes during the tour, and then we're actually creating a punch list of what needs to be done. And we leave that punch list with you. We take a photo of it for our own records, which we'll put one of these up in the video so you see exactly what it looks like. But for starters, let's start on the tour. So we come in, immediately what we're looking at is the condition of the paint. Are there dings and paint holes in the paint, things that need to be touched up? In this particular house, it's a nice neutral paint, which is what we want. We don't want the house to have loud, bright purple, pink, yellow wall. Maybe not, yellow can be done tastefully, but anything that you've done to the house that supports your desired decor might be a turnoff to someone else. So we want your house to look as vanilla, as plain as possible, so the tenant can picture themselves in your house. So let's continue on. Let's talk about window coverings. So these window coverings are shutters. They're white. This is perfect, but these are very nice window coverings. They're not cheap or cost effective, but if you had window coverings like these over here, these aren't as neutral. Like, these are kind of a loud pattern. We would probably recommend that you either put vertical blinds here or something more neutral. But you do have an obligation as the landlord to provide for the privacy of your tenants. And that's done with like bedroom windows, any windows that are front facing. Something into another room in the backyard, you may be able to get away with not having a window covering, but generally it's a good idea. So let's go into the kitchen. Into the kitchen is where there's a lot of things that we can talk about. For starters, we're looking for features that we could help sell your property to a potential tenant. In this case, it's got granite counters, stainless steel appliances. Those are some of the features that we could use. But let's talk specifically about the appliances. Like, for instance, here's a microwave. It's not a built-in microwave. This is probably a $80 appliance at the store. Our recommendation is going to be that you take this with you, or we get rid of it, but you don't provide it. Because if you never provide the microwave, guess what? You're never going to have to repair a microwave. And it's generally accepted that if a tenant can bring their own microwave. Now, the oven, that doesn't apply. You need to provide an oven. So if the oven's here, you're on the hook for repairing that if it breaks. This appliance, though, the refrigerator, is one of the appliances that you don't have to provide. There's three actually. So you don't have to provide a refrigerator, you don't have to provide a washer, and you don't have to provide a dryer. We don't like to provide these appliances, and here's why. If you don't ever provide the refrigerator, you're never going to have to repair it. Your job now as a landlord should be to reduce your exposure to maintenance. The less things you have to fix, the better your financial experience as a landlord is going to be. If you provide so many things and they're constantly breaking, you're going to hate being a landlord, and it's going to cost you. So a lot of people say, well, if I don't provide a fridge or a washer and dryer, no one's going to want to rent my property because I don't have all these amenities. I would challenge that thinking because I just don't see that being proven true in the market. See, in our area, there is a shortage of rental properties. So if there's no refrigerator here, it's not going to affect whether we can rent the property out. Now, if there's no fridge here and there's no washer and dryer, and we get someone that says, hey, I really love the property, I'd love to rent it, but I can't afford to buy a new washer and dryer and a new refrigerator. You know, that in our market could be $3,000, $4,000. We use that as a screening tool of sorts. If the person that's interested in the house can't afford to spend a couple $1,000s on an appliance, it's probably a good indicator that they may have trouble affording the rent. So there's a couple different reasons why we do it. The main one being, though, if you don't provide it, you're not going to have to pay for it. Let's take that a step further. Let's say that the washing machine is the tenant's, and the washing machine has a catastrophic failure and it's on the second story, and it floods and it continues to flood and it destroys the area around it. Water seeps through to below, destroys below, and you potentially could be staring down the face of a $50,000, $60,000 repair bill. If it's the tenant's washer, well, guess what? We are going to suggest that we make a claim on the tenant's renter's insurance, which if you can shift the liability from that issue onto the tenant's insurance, that is a huge win for you as the landlord. I'll give you a perfect example. Although it wasn't an appliance, it was something that the tenant did. We had a property where the tenant had a candle burning on the mantle. They went to bed, they weren't attending it. It ended up catching, I think it was a painting or something, on fire, and it burned up half the house. We immediately made a claim on the renter's insurance policy. The renter's insurance policy paid for all of the damage, including the deductible that the owner would have been responsible for, which is why we make sure no one moves into our properties without renter's insurance. Anyway, off on a tangent. So back to the kitchen. We're opening the appliances. We're making sure they appear to be in good working order. Obviously, faucets, water, anything where stuff leaks is something that we want to look at. So if we're looking down here and we see there's a leak, we're going to put it on our punch list that there's a potential leak there. That way you're fully aware of it, and then two, if we need to do it, we can easily make that repair. Stove's here. Let's go into the garage. So we got the water heater. This looks like a relatively new water heater, which is good. Here's the washer and dryer. The same thing we were talking about the refrigerator applies to the washer and dryer. I don't like to provide them. It's better if you don't. However, that being said, if for some reason you have to provide them, you're not in a position to get rid of them, it's not the end of the world. We still write up the lease that those 3 appliances are the personal property of the owner, and the owner's not going to maintain them. But that doesn't mean there's not going to be expenses related to them, because let's say the washing machine goes out and the tenant's responsible for repairing it. They call a repair person over. It's a $500 repair. Most tenants aren't going to spend $500 on an appliance that's not theirs. They're going to buy a new appliance and then call us up and say, hey, we got a new washing machine, the other one's broken, let's get it out of here. And then we're going to send somebody over to get rid of the broken washer. That's going to be an expense that's bared by the landlord. So even though we write our leases up that the tenants aren't going to be responsible, or that the owner isn't responsible, it doesn't mean that occasionally there might not be some charges for you. Okay, so in the garage, again, the main things we see in the garage are personal property that the previous tenants or you as the owner left behind. You don't want to leave any of your stuff. You basically want it to be a blank canvas. Obviously, we have some storage issues here, the landscape timers here, but this example here, they left some firewood. We'd probably recommend getting rid of the firewood. This looks like paint, which we actually like to leave the paint for the house because it makes touch-up easier. We'd open and close the garage, make sure that works. But okay, moving along, let's go back inside. So here we are in the living room. There's a fireplace. There's a fair amount of liability that comes with having a fireplace in a rental property. And what you can do as the owner of the property is get the fireplace inspected and the chimney swept, because that'll tell you the condition of it. If there's any issues related to it, you're going to know about it and you can resolve them. The risk is a lot of the houses in our area are old, and a lot of the fireplace components fail over time. And if you've never had a fire in your house, but for some reason the tenant wants to have a fire and there's a fireplace and they burn the house to the ground, If it was because there was a known problem in the fireplace, that would be very bad for you as the owner of the property. So the best thing to do is pay a couple $100 and get the fireplace inspected. As far as the rest of the room, we're looking at the paint. We talked about the window coverings. Let's go down the hallway. So the fire code is very specific on where smoke detectors and CO detectors need to be. So they need to have smoke detectors in the hallway. So here we have a carbon monoxide alarm, but no smoke detector. So we would add to our punch list, need to bring the smoke and CO detectors up to code. So technically in the hallway, there needs to be a smoke and a CO alarm, and here we only have one CO alarm. So going into the bedrooms, we have a smoke detector, which is good. It looks like there was some painting done. You notice there's some, like, the lines on the ceiling don't look very straight. Those are the little details that we want to make sure we get right, because when you rent your house out, your house is sending a message to the people who rent here. And we want the message to be, we cared about all the little details and we made sure everything was perfect. And we expect you to take care of the property in a similar fashion. If the message the house sends is, we don't really care, there's a hole there, here, there's a nick there, there's a missing outlet cover here, the message that sends is, do whatever you want to the house, because clearly we don't care either, and then they will in turn take care of the house poorly, which is not in your best interest. So those are some of the things we're looking at. Like, for instance, here, this needs to be touched up. There's definitely some paint touch-up that needs to happen in here. Window coverings, these are awesome window coverings. I actually wouldn't recommend installing these on a rental property. In this particular house, the owner was living here prior. If it's a rental property and you need to put a window covering up, we like those 2-inch faux wood blinds from Home Depot. They're relatively durable and relatively inexpensive to install. Again, we're just looking for anything that needs to be fixed, any little things. So coming out of here, we're just looking in the closet, standard closet, no issues there. This particular house, prior to this, used to have a heater here. There's nothing in here now. I think they've got a new heater, and I think it's up in the attic, but stuff we'd be looking for. Into the bathroom here, what we're looking for mainly in the bathroom is routine maintenance that hasn't been done. So what that means is there like a leak in the shower that's been leaking for years? You know, is there caulking around the edge of the tub? This one looks like it's in pretty good shape. It's obviously had a remodel. We look under the sink, make sure there's no obvious leaks. Same thing with the toilet. Is basically all we're looking for. But coming out of here, so this is a perfect example of a paint color that possibly could be a turnoff to somebody. So this is like a aqua bluish green. This is not an ideal color for a rental property. So we would recommend that this property or this room be painted a neutral color. The other thing I noticed right away is missing a electrical outlet. This is a 40-cent part at Home Depot that should be taken care of. And then over here, some bubbling in the paint. I don't know if this was a past issue or not, but that little things like that would be adding to our punch list, which we're probably, I would say, repaint this whole room, and then we would take care of that at the same time. All right, moving right along. This is, you know, more ideal. It has neutral carpet, neutral paint. If you notice here, that's missing the sliding closet doors. We would probably add that to the list. Those might be somewhere. The owner might have them in a shed or a garage or something. We're making sure that the smoke detector's here. And then going into the bathroom here, same thing. We're looking for leaks, routine maintenance in the shower. This, like I said, these bathrooms were remodeled relatively soon, so everything looks on the up and up. So this is just like a sun patio room. This is not technically probably a sleeping space, but again, we're looking at window coverings. These are a little bit neutral, but you can tell they've got some sun fade and damage to them. The surface of the floor is good. So hard surfaces in rental properties is your friend. Carpet, I hate carpet in rental properties because Although it's the cheapest new floor to install, you have to replace it so many times that it makes it one of the most expensive flooring options for a rental property. Tile, this is laminate or luxury vinyl planks. Those are much better options because they could last 15, 20 years, which over the life cycle will save you quite a bit of money. So let's head outside. So we always go in the backyard and the front yard, and we are looking for things that would make your property, low maintenance, be beneficial for you as a landlord. We come to this property, it has artificial grass, which is never going to need to be mowed, maybe a few weeds here and there, and then you have this planter box with mulch in it. So this is ideal. This is a low maintenance yard. So in this case, I would say you don't need a gardener back here because there's not much to garden. And for example, let's just say you did have some ornamental plants that you really cared about, or some vegetables or something up here, and then it was the tenant's responsibility to care for them. Well, if they all died, we're talking about a small area. We could easily remedy it, replace them, put new mulch down with the tenant's security deposit, and it wouldn't be an issue. On the flip side, if you had grass, bushes, and plants everywhere, and if the tenant destroyed that, you're looking at $20,000, $30,000 to put it back together. That would be a problem, which a security deposit rarely would cover that. But which brings us to a subject of a gardener. Do we keep a gardener at the property or not? And my opinion is, if you have a gardener that you like and they do a good job, it's absolutely in your best interest to keep them in place. And here's why. One, it's a lot cheaper to maintain a landscape than it is to replace a landscape. Two, the gardener is here on the premises on a routine basis, once a week, twice a month, and they're usually the first ones to notice when there's a problem. So we leverage the gardener to help us manage the property effectively. So if the gardener takes care of the property once a week and all of a sudden he comes here and there's 5 dogs in the backyard growling at him, well, he's gonna let us know, hey, there's dogs in the backyard and I can't do my job, which is gonna tip us off to say, there shouldn't be 5 dogs in the backyard, and then we're gonna do something to enforce the lease. Or now there's 15 cars in the driveway, or now it looks like somebody's sleeping in the garage. Like, those are all things that a lot of times a gardener will see first, and they can tip us, either us off as the management company or you as the owner of the property who has the pre-existing relationship with the gardener. The only caveat with gardeners is we don't pay gardeners who aren't properly licensed and insured. So if you have an uninsured, unlicensed gardener that you like, you can continue that relationship. It just can't be with the management company, but they absolutely can still, keep an eye on the property. So that's how we feel about gardeners. If your backyard looks like this, you probably don't need a gardener, but if it doesn't look like this, it's a good idea to keep one. So let's keep walking around. So it looks like we have the air conditioner over here. There's a shed, which is for the tenant's use, which is good because, people come with a lot of stuff. It looks like they have an outdoor shower, which I would add this to the punch list. It's clearly leaking. This is something that needs to either get changed out or repaired, but that would get added to the punch list. Let's go back inside. So it's at this point that we're basically done with the tour. So we would then sit down or stand with you and kind of go over our findings. And we have this one sheet, which we'll put up on the screen. We have the items on it, and basically all the stuff on that list is what needs to get done to get the property rent ready, including what we didn't talk about was a professional move-out cleaning, and then if there's any carpet, a professional carpet cleaning. We leave that with you. That's your punch list. Either you can get the stuff done on it, or if you get overwhelmed or your own checklist is a mile long and you can't get to those items, we are more than capable of doing it. In fact, we prefer to do it because we can manage the timeline usually a lot faster than you can. And this house probably rents for $3,200 a month, let's just say $3,000. Every day it's not rented, it's costing you $100. So if we can do something in a matter of 3 or 4 days, but it's gonna take you 3 weeks, there's clearly a cost savings by having us do it. Even though our vendors are charging to do the work, you'll come out ahead just by the fact that you're collecting rent that much longer. And then we flip this paper over, which we'll do, and you'll see we have a 90-day feedback guarantee. So we stand behind the service that we provide. If you hire us, we are working for you. We find you a tenant. We're managing the property. If for whatever reason in the first 90 days you aren't happy and you want to cancel the service, just let us know. We'll cancel the contract and we will literally return the management fees to you. Because our reputation is important. I don't believe in handcuffing you to a contract if you're not happy. If we didn't earn your business, then frankly, we don't deserve your business. So that is something that we absolutely stand behind and will do if needed. Thankfully, it doesn't happen. And to be honest with you, we've never actually done it because we do such a good job, but we 100% will do it. The other thing that we need to go over is, now that we've seen the property, is how much can we rent the property for? So Marcy will get you a rent range before we meet, but the reason we give a range is because we haven't put eyes on the property. Now that we've had a chance to walk through and look at every feature and get a good feel for the property, a good feel for the neighborhood, how your property compares, we can hone in on an actual rent price. And this CMA, which we'll throw that document up on the video as well, goes over the data. These are the houses that are like yours, is how much they rented for, this is their square footage, time, all that stuff that is relevant to setting the rent price, we will talk about. And when we leave here, you'll have a spot on rental analysis so you know what we can rent the property for. This is the part where we talk about any questions that you have. I usually like to talk how we show properties. So we show properties in a traditional manner, very similar to what we're doing here. We would walk someone through who was interested in the property, but what we also do that's a little bit unique, there's only a couple companies in our area that do it, is a proprietary self-showing lockbox system. It's very secure. It has like multiple fail-safe systems in it, but basically if someone wants to look at the property after hours, and we set the time so they couldn't come here at 2 in the morning, but if they wanted to come at 7 o'clock on a Sunday, because that's when they're available, they absolutely could schedule that, and they go through our system, which verifies their identity, and it gets them a showing at the property. They show up, their phone is GPS tracked to prove that they're at the location. They get a code and they can come through the property. While they're here, one of our team members picks up the phone and calls them and checks in on them to one, help them through the tour, explaining features, and two, to let them know that, you know, we know they're here and we're on top of it. So that's one way. That's one of the ways we show the properties, which coincidentally allows us to get the properties rented out much faster than our competition, because we're here to accommodate the customer, which in this case is the potential tenant. So we talk about that. We talk about pets, which we'll link to some of our articles on pets. We like the property to be pet friendly. And the reason is people are really good about getting around no pet policy. So most landlords don't particularly want pets in their property, but in today's day and age, if somebody says there's no pets allowed, they literally go to a healthcare provider and they will get a prescription for an emotional support animal. And once that happens and we verify it, then there's no saying no pets for the property, that your hands are tied. And unfortunately, there's a fair amount of fraudulent behavior surrounding this. So the way we combat that is by saying that the property is pet friendly. So the people that have pets don't have to jump through all those hoops, and then we can control the process. In fact, we have them apply through a third party where we screen the animal, we check immunization records, they sign an affidavit saying the dog's not, you know, aggressive and hasn't bitten anybody, and then that pet screening company rates the pet like a 1 through 5 paws, and then we charge the tenant a small monthly fee based on the rating of the pet. What Rincon guarantees to our clients who agree to make their properties pet friendly is we give $2,000 in rent or in a damage guarantee. So meaning in this case, if the house rents for $3,000 and the security deposit is $3,000, Rincon would kick in an extra $2,000 for any pet damage related to the pet that we have in the property. Any damage above the security deposit is when our $2,000 kicks in. So you would have $5,000 of coverage. The way we used to do it in the past was we would just take a $400 pet deposit. And in my experience, if a pet's gonna do damage it's not going to be $50 in damage or $100 in damage. They're generally going to do a lot of damage, which is why we've kind of flipped the way we handle it, and we think it's better for you, our client, to have the $5,000 of guarantee versus $400 for a pet deposit. So that's how we handle pets. We really encourage you to accept pets. They say 60 to 70% of renters come with pets. So if you say no pets, you're potentially limiting the pool, and you're encouraging people to fraudulently get around your no pet policy. So we definitely have that conversation. We also can talk about how we screen applicants, which there's plenty of articles in our Learning Hub that go over that. We talk about insurance, because as a landlord now, you need a different insurance policy on the property. You need a landlord policy, and you need to add the management company as an additionally insured party. There's video, we're gonna have some content related to that specifically as well. That's the gist of the on-site consultation. The next step in our process is to get the contracts done. So if you know that you're ready to make a decision, a lot of times we can just do the contracts right here, right now. We do it on an iPad electronically. Or if you're not ready, or more importantly, you want to take time to review the contracts when you have time, because they are, I think our contracts are 10 or 15 pages long, then we can also take all of the information to fill out the contracts. And the information that we need is the full name of people who are on title of the property. How is title held? Is the property in a trust? Is it held as an individual, joint tenants? There's a couple different ways to hold title of the property. We need to decide on the maintenance threshold. So this is a made up arbitrary number. In our particular business, we like it to be $300. And in essence, it's you are pre-authorizing us to spend up to that $300. And by the way, that number is negotiable. It could be higher, it could be lower, but we like 300 without contacting you. So if there's a leaky faucet and we know it's a $50 part or charge by the handyman, we're just gonna do it and we're not gonna bother you. And then you're gonna find out about it in your monthly statement that you get from us. If for some reason the plumber comes over or the handyman comes over here and finds out it's not just that easy and it's some bigger problem and it's gonna cost $1,000, well then he's gonna give us an estimate. We're gonna reach out to you. We're gonna get your approval. We might even get a second estimate, and then we'll go from there. But that maintenance threshold, that number that kind of pre-authorizes us to operate, we like it to be $300. The other figure that we need to decide is our reserve. So this is your money that sits in our trust account. And the purpose of the reserve, a couple things. One, we'll never spend someone else's money on your property, and we'll never spend your money on somebody else's property. So every client has to have a reserve of funds with us. Two, when the tenant pays the rent, we then pay the bills, whatever those may be, gardener, our fees, pool service, whatever the bills are. And then we send the money to you. Well, you get your money from us around the 11th or 12th day of the month. If on the 15th day a repair happens, or something happens that needs to be repaired, well, we don't have any of your money. We can't spend someone else's money, which is why we have the reserve. The reserve we like to keep is about $1,000, because we find that most things can be covered for $1,000. Not everything. And if it's bigger items, we're usually getting multiple estimates anyway, but we can stop major damage and address most issues with $1,000. Again, this is your money that just sits in our trust account. That also is a negotiable number. So those two numbers, how you hold title, and then the bigger one is what pricing plan do you want? Because if you go on our website, which I encourage you to do, we have 3 pricing plans. One is tenant placement, where we just find the tenant and you manage the property, and then we have a full service and a premium service. There is a lot of content on our Learning Hub specifically about pricing, probably more than you'd ever want to learn about our pricing structure. So I encourage you to go look at that. But this would be the time when you tell us which pricing plan you want. And if you want help to work through that, we can absolutely help work through that with you. After that, we would take that information, we'd draw up the contracts, we'd send them to you electronically, and then the ball would be in your court. And this would be your opportunity to review them. If you didn't have any questions and you liked what you saw, you could literally sign the documents electronically, and then we'd be officially working with you. If you have questions, don't sign them, reach back out to us, and then let's work through the questions, and then we can go from there. That is the gist of the on-site consultation. I know it was a long video, but we want you to be able to feel like you know exactly what you're getting into before you get into it. And like I said, when we look at our analytics, it amazes me how many people are looking at this kind of stuff in the wee hours of the morning, because more than likely it's the only time you get, alone, uninterrupted, when you can finally get to those things on your list that you never had time to get to during the day. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, fill out the contact us form. We will absolutely reach out to you. Our Learning Hub is a great resource. Our YouTube channel also is a great resource. Don't hesitate to contact us, and we hope you have a good day.